Hi, and welcome to Classic Advice. My name is Scarlett Classic. I am your host. This is my podcast all about my advice that I'd like to share with you. I also have co-hosts on, and they bring their own unique experience and expertise to the show, which is awesome. So I'm so happy that you decided to join, and let's dive right into the episode. Hi, everyone. I hope that this episode is finding you well and that you've had an awesome week. I am actually doing some batch recording. So if you listened to my episode from last week, I don't have any new listeners to shout out because I'm actually recording these two episodes back to back. So if you haven't listened to the first, I think it's 5 or 6 minutes of that episode, do go listen to it because I shouted out everyone from their city, country, or at least as best as I could pronounce the places. So let's dive right into the episode. I mentioned last week that this week we were talking about learning how and why to say no. And this was such a hard lesson for me to learn. And not that I don't know. I find it so hard to say no. I'm even now, and I'm not as much of a people pleaser now than I was before, but I want to make people happy. I like it when people are happy. So, yeah. Saying no is such a crucial skill to maintain that work-life balance that we were talking about last week and avoiding that burnout, right? So, because it's such a big point, I wanted to devote an entire episode to it because I didn't think that it's just too big. I had too much to say on the topic. So, yeah. Alrighty. And overcommitting can also lead to stress, anxiety, and decreased productivity. So, for example, I am a podcaster. And it does take quite a bit of time and whatnot. So, like I mentioned before, one of the things that I do to manage and just be time efficient is batch recording. It's a good use of my time, time management, because I'm already all set up. I'm already out here. Hopefully these episodes turn out and my audio quality isn't terrible and I have to redo them. But I guess I will if I have to. Doing those back to back, and then when I edit, I find it easier to find times to edit because I can do it in chunks, right? If I have 20 minutes, I can sit down, edit for 20 minutes, save my document, and then when I come back to it, I can pick up where I left off and finish, right? It's not like recording where you have to find this chunk of time where my kids are being quiet, which they're in the house sleeping, and, managing my 5 dogs is another challenge. So, So yeah, doing that batch recording has really helped in my time management for just working on my podcast and tackling it little pieces at a time. I know I do have some podcasting friends that are listening to the show, so you completely understand what I'm talking about. But for those that don't podcast, there's a lot of steps and a lot of little things that go on in the background, like getting on all the apps. Till a couple days ago, I wasn't on all the apps. But I was like, you know what? It's okay. That's fine. I'm on the main one. I'm on Spotify, at least. I'm on, a couple other major ones. And I was like, when I have time, I'll go in and I'll add my podcast onto the other apps. And then, that's not a bad thing. But that's how I did it. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to stress about it. My website still needs work. I want to eventually make some merchandise. So I'm going to have some, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm going to have yet. But I intend to have some merchandise. Like I would like to buy some shirts and maybe a hat, maybe a hoodie or something I'm going to a podcasters conference in September with my dear friend Dave Campbell and his wife Jen. And I'm so excited for it. But I want to have a shirt and stuff. So I'm going to make merch, even if it's just me that buys it. That's okay. And just tackling all the little behind the scenes one step at a time so that I don't get overwhelmed and I don't get burnt out. And that's me saying no to, I don't have to do it all at once. When I clean my house, I don't do it all at once. When I do the floors, I guess I do that all at once because, you can't do one room, but then the hair just gets all tracked. that doesn't work. But, tackle one room at a time. Tackle one dresser at a time. You don't have to do it all at once. You can say no to things to prevent yourself from getting burnt out. And it's okay. It's okay. Your house doesn't need to look like it belongs in a magazine. It can look lived in. I give you the permission because that's how my house looks like. It's lived in, and I have kids, so it's like a tornado goes through every day. Yeah, anyways, and learning to set those boundaries and is so essential for protecting your mental health. Learning to say no. Because if I were to go tackle my house and expect it to be 100% clean and look like it could belong in a magazine all the time, at any given point of time, that somebody could walk in the door and they'd be like, oh my goodness, this house is so clean and so perfect. I would go insane because there is just not enough hours in the day. And that is all I would do. That's all I would do. I would have no time for myself. Now, is that healthy? I don't think so. I that's just my opinion, but I don't think so. If you don't say no to things so that you can take some time for you, I don't think that's healthy. Because your self-care is so important. You're important. It's important to do the things that bring you joy and fulfillment and all that good fun stuff. So some strategies that I've used to say no, and like I've kind of touched on already, this doesn't just mean saying no to others. It can mean saying no to yourself too. Like, no, and my house doesn't have to look like it's perfect 100% of the time, right? Although if you're approaching somebody else, then this is what I would recommend, is to be direct but polite. Be firm in your refusal. And don't let yourself be talked into something that will be too much for you. Don't let yourself be talked into something that is not going to be good for you. I repeated that on purpose because it's important that you heard it. Like I've mentioned before, that I am a bit of an introvert in the sense that I need my alone time. And if I constantly say yes, yes, yes to going out, I know I will get burnt out. So sometimes when I'm not feeling the greatest, where I'll be like, do you want to go out? And 99.9% of the time I'll be like, yeah. But then there's times, like just a few weeks ago, that I was like, you know what? I think, can we just stay in? I'm just so tired and I just don't have energy. And I said no. And he was like, of course, that's perfectly fine. And I was like, if you want to go out, like I don't have a problem with that. Like if you want to go out, I'm cool with that. He's like, no, I'd like to stay home with you. So we ended up having a night in, and it was a really wonderful night in. I would also say to avoid making excuses or over explaining. My therapist once told me, she's like, you really don't owe anybody an explanation. Now, I do believe there's a time and a place for it, depending on the relationship, depending on what the thing is. But sometimes you can just say no and leave it at that. You don't necessarily need to go on to all these reasons of why you're saying no. And if you could, suggest an alternative solution or compromise if possible, right? It's always nice to compromise when you can. That give and take that I've mentioned before in relationships, it's important, that give and take, especially in a marriage, The other thing that I've struggled with is the guilt of saying no. Oh, I always feel so bad. So then that's why I don't say no. And then I get burnt out because I should have said no. But when I do say no, then I feel bad. So remind yourself that saying no is a form of self-care. Because if you say no to one thing, what are you saying yes to? In my analogy, going back to when Roy asked me if I wanted to go out and I said no. I said no to going out, but I said yes to spending a night in, just me and my husband and my kids. And it was great. So when you say no to something, what are you saying yes to? So for example, I am slowly tackling my basement There's one room in my basement that I really want to get clean this summer. It's like chaotic down there. There's just so much, the old things, the boxes I need to go through. I need to get rid of some stuff that I haven't touched for years. And it's like, why am I hanging on to this? Like, let's just get rid of it. Declutter, right? But if you tackle it all in one go, or if well, you're not going to clean up my basement, so I shouldn't say you, but when I go to tackle it, if I were to do it 100% all in one go, it would take me probably an entire weekend. So instead, on Tuesday is dump day. So on Tuesday, I went down. It took like, I don't know, 5 minutes, not even. I grabbed a bunch of things that were really obvious. I threw them in a garbage bag. I took 2 garbage bags from the basement to the dump. There, I worked a little bit on it. When you remind yourself that saying no is part of your self-care, I said no to tackling that basement all in one go. I said yes to tackling it in little chunks so that I could have time for my self-care, because there is only 24 hours in a day. I really wish there were more. I would get so much more done. Or if I never had to sleep. Oh, the things that I could do. Right? And recognizing the fact that you can't please everyone all the time. And for those of you that are parents, completely get what I'm saying right now. Because one kid will want to do that, the other kid will want to do the other thing. And it's like, why can't you guys pick the same thing? They're pretty good most of the time. But then you get those times where it's like, well, you know what? We got to pick something. So I guess we're going to do this. And the next time you can pick. Or, for example, our camper has bunk beds. So last year, Levi got the top. This year, Riley gets the top. Then next year, they can swap again. And it's just that, right? Recognize the fact that you can't please everybody. So when you say no, you are going to be pleasing yourself in the end. And you are important. For me, overcoming the fear of saying no, I don't know why I was scared to say no. Like, I think I was so, well, I guess I do. I was scared that people wouldn't like me if I said no too much and stood up for myself. But it's the exact opposite, you guys. The more you stand up for yourself, the more you say no and you set your boundaries and you have the respect for yourself to say no, and you respect yourself, other people are going to respect you because you respect yourself. It's the complete opposite of what I thought. I thought that if I said yes more, people would like me more, and I wanted to be liked because, people want to be liked. I want to be liked, right? You want to be liked. But you're not going to please everybody, and your people will find you. Like, you're here right now. You're here right now because you want to spend some time with me, and I love you for that. I thank you for that. That means so much to me. You guys are my people. You're my people. You guys are my podcast family, if you want to put it that way. You are my people. And your people will find you. They will. Have some patience, because for me, it took a few years to find my people. But when I did find my people, and since I've started this podcast and been a part of the podcasting community, I've met so many new wonderful, wonderful people. And I can't wait to talk to you. The other thing that you can do to overcome your fear of saying no is practice saying no to the small little things. And then work yourself up to say no to the big things. Right? Because the first time you do it, it's not going to be very easy. But the more you do it, the better you're going to get. And if you practice doing it with the little things, then it will get easier to say no to the big things. The other thing that helps is picture yourself saying no, like visualize it. And what would that look like? And what do you get to say yes to? And that might give you the drive and the momentum to go say no, because you'll be excited about the thing that you can say yes to, right? Focusing on the positive outcome of saying no has really helped me. And remember that you have the right to prioritize your needs because nobody's going to do it for you. For example, if I don't communicate to Roy what I need, then how is he supposed to know? So if I don't prioritize my needs, he can guess, but how accurate is that going to be? Well, I mean, we've been together for a long time now, so he's probably going to be really good at it. But we all change and grow. But just like in marriage, if you don't communicate with your partner, if I don't communicate with Roy my needs and the things that I need from him, then how is he supposed to know? Because we're not mind readers, right? Remembering that you are in charge, you're in the driver's seat, and you need to prioritize your needs. You need to say no so you can go say yes, and prioritize your needs because nobody knows them except you. And the other really important thing is maintaining those boundaries after you say no. Because that guilt and the fear, oh, maybe they're not going to like me anymore, or just the guilt after of saying no. And then you go back and you change your mind, be like, actually, you know what? I can volunteer for you this week and I'm not doing anything when really you're exhausted. Don't do that. Because what it teaches people is that if they nag you long enough, you'll eventually say yes after you've said no. And this is so important if you have kids. If you tell your kids no, and they nag and nag and nag, and then eventually you give in and say yes, what does that teach them? It teaches them, oh, if I bug mommy long enough, she's eventually going to say yes, and I'm going to get what I want. So it teaches them to nag, because nagging gets them what they want, right? As a parent, when you say no, and this goes for your romantic relationships as well, right? If your kids nag, and mommy said yes, so look, that's just kids. They know how to push your buttons and they're smart. So don't go back. So some of the things that I've noticed from the benefits of since I have started to say no to things so I can go say yes to other things, are my stress and anxiety has really significantly decreased. It's really helped manage my stress, which, as we talked about last week, prolonged stress can result in burnout. So that's a good thing. And it has improved my work-life balance because I schedule my times in for my hobbies, and I'll consciously kind of limit that time. So I'm not spending all day on my hobbies and don't get anything else done. It's giving me a greater sense of control in my life because I do have control over my day. I can say no if I really want to, and that's okay. And you know what, guys? People respect me, and I know I've touched on this before, but people respect me more now than they ever have before because I respect myself by setting that boundary, and they take me seriously when I say no. And I remember when I was 19, I had this job, and I specifically told them I can only work till 6 o'clock. I have other commitments. I can't work past 6. And it was in our little contract when I was hired. And they stuck to that for about a week or two or so, and then they scheduled me to 6:15, and I was like, oh, come on. And I was like, well, I don't want to make a big fuss about 15 minutes. Like, maybe they couldn't get somebody in. Like, I get it. I don't want to be, like, unreasonable. I let it slide. I worked till 6:15 and I left. Then the next week when the schedule came out, I was scheduled till 6:45. And I was like, okay, we'll see how this goes. I went and got my stuff at 6. I walked out, and as I walked out, I saw my manager, and I said, okay, I'm out. I'll see you tomorrow. And she's like looking at me all shocked and stunned and like confused. What? And I was like, yeah, I'm done at 6. And she's like, well, you're scheduled till 6:45. And I was like, yeah, but in our contract when I was hired, which you agreed to, I said that I can't work past 6 and you said that would be fine, it's not my problem that you couldn't hold your end up of the deal. So I will work till 6. And if you continue to schedule me past 6, I will just do what I'm doing now and I'll walk out. And it was scary. And when I did it and I reached my car, when I got out of that building, I was vibrating. I could not believe that I just did that. Because yeah, I was a little bit concerned about losing my job, but you know what? She never did it again. And she respected me. She didn't really like me, but she did respect me. And you know what? I wasn't there to make friends anyway, so I was there to do a job. And just before we close off, I just want to mention that saying no is like any other skill. It takes some time and it takes some practice. So start out small. Don't go lift the 30-pound weights right away. Start at maybe 10 pounds, right? Start with the small things. Start saying no to the small things and then work your way up to saying no to the big things. And the more you do it, the better you're going to get at it. And sit back and watch your life change. Just watch. I'm so excited for you because the freedom and the just peace that I feel now in my life because I am saying no when I need to is so liberating. And I want that feeling for you. I really, really do. So I'm going to leave you with JJ's tagline because as we all know, it is just so awesome and perfect and it fits for like every single topic. He's a genius. Is please pause. Love yourself enough to say no. So you can go say yes to something else. And be aware of the ripple that you guys make. I love you guys. You guys are so awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And we will catch you next week. All right. You guys take care. Bye. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thank you for listening all the way to the very end. Aw, you're the best. My website is ClassicChronicles.ca. If you want to head on over there, I have my co-hosts all listed there. If you click on their photos, it'll take you directly to their website. Go say hi to them. They would love to hear from you. Podcasters love hearing from their listeners. So go say hi. Don't be shy. And if you want to as well, there is a Buy Me a Coffee link on there, which all the proceeds I use to just pour right back into my podcast. It does cost me just a little bit to have this podcast going, and I would love to be able to support it instead of taking it out of my own pocket and maybe, take the kids for an ice cream because they don't like coffee. I love coffee though. So, all right, you guys take care and we'll see you next week. Bye.